Hey, and welcome to Neverwinter with Aragon. So the wizard is getting a whole bunch of changes to both the Thaumaturge and the Arcanist. Some nerfs, but mainly buffs. Now first of all, they went through a bunch of fixes with powers, let's say, not dealing damage correctly and being essentially reduced by your character's critical avoidance stat. Ridiculous. Other classes also still struggle with this issue on some of their powers, Warlock, and otherwise a bunch of powers got a 10% bonus damage when used in the spell mastery slot, and then some other fixes there with the shield spell being increased with the size of its shield. Now this was just the initial pass and some fixes, and just earlier today it was announced that a whole bunch more buffs will be coming. We can see with this update, this is the short version here, I will read it out shortly, but we can see all the changes to the different powers down the wizard, both Arcanist and Thaumaturge. So let's go through them and see how the wizard is going to kind of end up. I'll give my prediction. However, keep in mind I am no main wizard class and I'm still learning it. So take anything I say in terms of what you should do with a grain of salt. For now, I'm going to try avoid that and just go over the pure facts of what's being changed. So a quick TLDR. There'll be a lot of 10 to 20% increases across many of the different powers, and on the Thaumaturge especially, Smolder is getting a significant increase, and unfortunately for the Arcanist, its at-will will no longer regenerate action points without hitting a target, and its Arcane Empowerment is also getting a nerf to the amount of recharge speed you gain, making it so that rather than spamming encounter powers, you're going to have to wait a little bit longer before they recharge. Now on the base class itself, doesn't matter which paragon you are on, your at-will magic missile will be increased to deal 50 magnitude. Then the shield encounter power will be increased to 300 magnitude, with the extra additional proc of it being 350 magnitude. And the shield amount will go up to 30% at base and 40% when on spell mastery. And the cast time, instead of being a full 1.6, will be like half a second. That will be awesome, since this thing is a mighty pain to cast and you end up taking more damage than the freaking shield it gives you before you've even finished casting it while in a pack of enemies. Now the daily Arcane Singularity, which is like one of the really cool wizard spells, like pulling the enemies up and dealing a significant amount of damage, will be having its magnitude bumped up by 200, so it'll be on 1,000. Also, Ice Knife will go up to 2,000 magnitude, and then Arcane Presence going up to 1% per stack instead of just 0.5, and then Orb of Imposition will be going to 25% with the added effect of your control powers dealing an additional 5% damage against control immune targets. Now let's go to the Arcanist specific powers, and this is a nerf, but Storm Pillar will no longer incorrectly cause you to gain action points while not actually hitting anything. For example, we have a dummy here, and while I'm in combat, I could regenerate action points, as you can see there, without actually hitting anything. Well, we did hit him there, but you can see we're targeting over here. It gives us action points for like no reason. That's getting fixed, which is a bit of a nerf for the wizard's action point regeneration in trials when you have like the boss phasing. Now Arcane Bolt will be going from 60 magnitude to 100. That is significant and should definitely help the wizard be able to deal a significant amount of damage with an at-will power. The encounter power Lightning Bolt will be having 100 increase to its magnitude up to 300. However, there's a known issue with it not targeting too correctly when you have varied up and down terrain. Steal Time will also be going to 300 magnitude, and Arcane Tempest going to 350, and Arcane Conduit going to 250. Then your daily power Maelstrom of Chaos, this one just here, it's a small area though, will get double its magnitude, up to 1,200. Unfortunately, Arcane Empowerment, which is like the daily power all Arcanists rely on for burst damage, is getting a bit of a nerf. Instead of it, as we look at our recharge speed, casting it you can see our recharge speed goes to 400%. Instead of it giving us 400% recharge speed, making our encounter powers be able to have like a 3-second cooldown, it will only give us about 250% recharge speed, meaning a 15-second encounter power will still take like 5 seconds on a cooldown. We'll have to test exactly what they mean by this, but it is getting its added effect of encounter power damage being boosted to 20% instead of just 10%. Eye of the Storm is having its magnitude increased to 150 instead of just what it was at 50, and a slight nerf to it, it shall no longer be able to crit like every time. Arcane Power Field will have a bug fixed with it so that it will actually accept buffs or modifiers, and that should be a significant damage increase to it. The feat Alacrity will have an increased cooldown reduction from 2 seconds up to 5 seconds. Snap Freeze will go from 40 magnitude to 60. Chaos Magic will just get its proc chance increased from 5% to 7%. Very minimal, but we'll see if that makes much of an impact. And then Elemental Reinforcement will have its damage increased from 5% to 7%. And that's it for the Arcanist, and we move to the Thaumaturge. Its at-will power, Scorching Blast, which is like this area, will be increased up to a maximum of 100 magnitude at a full cast and at 50 instead of 30 for just a quick cast. Chilling Cloud is also going from 65 to 80 magnitude. Fanning the Flames will have its base magnitude from 100 up to 400, and its tick damage, so its damage over time, will go from 33 to 100. And the cooldown will be reduced from 21 seconds with no recharge speed to 18 seconds. Conduit of Ice will also have its magnitude going from 230 to 300. And Fireball with its AoE attack going to 300 magnitude and its single target one going to 600 magnitude. Now the daily power Ice Storm will have its damage increased along with the removal of the knockback. That will help to be a bit more friendly within group content, and it should just knock down instead. So it's going from 600 magnitude to 1000. Now Swath of Destruction will be having its damage bonus increased from 5% to 10% and the secondary effect from 2% to just 3%. But just keep in mind, Smolder is getting a massive buff, so even these small increases can be significant. Now Combustive Action, the action points is going from just 1% to 5%. And Frost Wave is increasing the chill stacks from 3 to a maximum of 6. And they're fixing a bug where it failed to freeze the enemy. As for the feats, Relative Haste is getting its increased max cooldown speed bonus from 10% to 20%. And Smoldering Recovery, instead of giving a 1.5% bonus to your action points, it will only give 0.3%. And this is because of the buff we're getting 2 directed flames with increasing its proc chance rather than having a 12-second cooldown. So it can proc a lot more often, and thus the reduction to Smoldering Recovery. Now Glowing Flames will increase your damage from 20% up to 30%. Icy Veins increasing the range from 15 to 30 feet. Then we have Frigid Winds, and the damage bonus is also being increased from 1.25 to 1.5. And then, as previously mentioned, Directed Flames is having its damage reduced from 80% to 25%, but it can now proc every second instead of once every 12 seconds. And ultimately, your smolder damage is being increased from just 40 damage per tick to 150 magnitude damage per tick. This, in conjunction with all the feats to go with it to buff it up, will mean you're going to have quite a lot of dot damage on your Thaumaturge that's going to buff you up with like action points regeneration and otherwise significant damage boost. Now a lot of testing will have to be done as soon as these fixes actually arrive. They still haven't come to the preview server just yet, just want to give you the heads up at what's all changing, and there'll be a link to the description below where you can read through all the changes yourself. But they're definitely making the Thaumaturge look a lot more dot damage, with Smolder dealing significantly more damage and the buffs with it also being able to proc like a lot more often, and thus being able to gain a decent amount of action point regen through it, and so on. But again, I'm no wizard expert. Let me guys know what you think of these changes to the wizard. I will definitely be doing some tests with the wizard, as it's actually pretty easy to translate from the rogue to the wizard. Reason being is that they have the same forte, which means I can literally use all the same gear, except using ideally Mythalar instead of the Demogorgon set that I would have on my rogue, and then of course using intelligence instead of strength. The rest is pretty similar. So we'll see what happens, and again, a lot more testing needs to be done. We'll see how this all pans out, but what I can see by the pure damage boosts there, the wizard will definitely be doing a lot more damage, and the Thaumaturge a lot more dot damage, and I think with the Arcanist, not much has changed. Bit of a nerf to Arcane Empowerment. It will lead to the question of whether you actually still want to use that and just go with, let's say, Ice Knife instead with 2000 magnitude. But again, we'll see. So with that, I'd like to give a special thank you to all of these channel members for helping me keep my channel going. And if I presented this well, consider leaving a video a like. And if you're new around here, consider subscribing. We'll see you guys around. Goodbye for now.